Good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Ludico Pekina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News Review, where we rate articles essential, important, and optional to save you time and identify massive trends that are happening in the AI landscape. Today, I have John, Ankaj, Adam, Tim, and Amanda, our core crew. Welcome, everyone. And we have a set of really tremendous articles today to review. You can follow along at gaiinsights.com/articles. And please tell us what you think and whether you agree or disagree with our ratings and why. All right, let's start with the first article, Kash.
Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from McKinsey and talks about seizing the agentic AI advantage.
Yes, a rather longish epistle from McKinsey. What did you think about this, Tim?
Well, I did not like it. So, and for a couple of reasons. I think this is, without, I know we're always pressed for time, without going too far down the rabbit hole. Those of us in the services industries for a long time viewed McKinsey as the pinnacle place. It was the place. It was never compromised. It was always served its clients well. They fired the guy who wrote the Megatrends book back in the 70s because he was getting too big for his boots for McKinsey, and they wanted it to be a firm that solely served clients in their clients' best interests. And this, to me, makes McKinsey a shill. This is a very, very light cover-up, for a Mistral sponsored article. Okay, every suggestion they had for a product, the first product mentioned is Mistral, and every product mentioned is a small model product. So there's just so many things wrong with this article. I'm giving it an optional because I think it hurts people to read this because they're going to get incorrect ideas about the way to go about it. The second way they are talking their books is really just a big marketing article and sales article is, well, you have to get serious right now, centralize everything. CEO has to get involved, which means you have to hire McKinsey to help you out to do it. And they have their little framework, which is okay. But I think they miss some huge issues, which is they are claiming we have to get beyond experimentation and education. And I don't think we are even close to that yet. And to claim that we can just move right beyond that, the CEO is going to slam his fist on the table and say, we got to get serious about this stuff, is crazy to me. We are in a state right now, and I equate this to spreadsheets a long, long time ago. When spreadsheets first came out, it wasn't trivial to integrate spreadsheets into productivity and transform businesses because nobody knew what they were. They didn't have the tools. They didn't have the skills. Now it's in the ether. We take it for granted because culture has taken over the training for spreadsheets. You get somebody, you hire them, they already have all the skills they need. That was not the case in the beginning then, and it took a lot of money and time to get there from corporations. And that's not the case now with generative AI and agentic AI. It's going to take a lot of time and money to build up enough education before it gets culturally transferred and people just come out into the workforce with all these skills. It takes 10 years probably at least. So I think this is just a total sales article, and therefore I think it's actually bad for people to read it because they're going to get the wrong ideas about what to do next. There are some good ideas in here. It's well written as usual by McKinsey, but I think there are so many poor ideas in here, I would give it an optional.
Okay, wonderful review here from Tim. Triple optional, it sounds like. Anybody wants to add to this or dissent?
I think, do we need a new category? Forbidden?
Yeah, we don't even put them on the final page with the rating. We just strike them from the record.
Write them from
Yeah,
the
it's just
or rated important to say, please don't read.
I think we used a lot of words to not really add much to the conversation.
Yeah, but Tim is right. There are some definitional things that I think can hurt people. Like the horizontal versus vertical is really wrong. I looked at it and I said, it can really hurt people. Okay, so optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankaj.
But Luda, before we go on, I do want to note, I think that's a Hall of Fame rating candidate that Tim just gave there. What it shows, and that's a top 5 one, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Not that I had a strong opinion.
yeah, no, you certainly did. So, but this was, I think, really good. Okay, so we go optional on this one, or triple optional, or whatever, not to read type of thing. Let's go next, Ankaj, please.
The next one comes from Adobe, and they have launched a new LLM optimizer.
Yes, Adam, what did you think about this optimizer?
I think this is very interesting. There's some good numbers in here. They have a really unique approach, and what we're talking about is really, as we talk about, there's the answer engine optimization, right? Here they call it GEO, which is actually generation engine, not even generative engine, which is interesting. But so there's a debate about what to call it, but there is the conversation we keep having, we've had on Learning Labs, we've discussed on here about the shift from really looking, I guess, asking questions to getting answers, right? And search, I guess, from search to answer is a good way to put it. And this is Adobe's tool that goes right at that problem and trying to address it. As it says, this optimizer can help marketers answer questions like, is my content showing up in generative AI tools? They actually have a pulse on this. Are my competitors being cited where I'm not? What can I do to improve my brand's visibility? And it gets very, very detailed. It's a well thought out tool. It offers some really interesting functionality. I would say this is a product announcement. I couldn't go as far as to say it's essential, but it is important that people understand that Adobe is bringing this to market, and they're obviously coming after something they recognize is very important, and our AI leaders need to be recognizing that. And if it's not Adobe, what are they doing about this?
Yeah, there's a slew of startups targeting that segment and creating tools to watch what's happening with traffic, analyzing it, and adjusting it. Adobe put it into a package. It's not integrated into any LLMs yet, early days. So important from Adam. What did you think about this, Amanda?
Yeah, I'm just a little skeptical because I'm not exactly sure how it gets all of its information. Like okay, let me take a step back. If I'm currently not working at OpenAI and I have not built the algorithm for the GPTs and things like that, how do I know exactly, if I'm working for another company, exactly how they're looking at the data and how they're pulling in and what they're, so I'm a little skeptical on that. Maybe I just don't understand, and maybe everybody knows but me. I don't know, but I'm a little skeptical for that reason on articles like this. So I'm more an optional just because I'm a skeptic, period, about this.
Got it. John, what did you think? John, you're on mute.
John.
Definitely important on this one for me. This is I usually don't give an important to a vendor announcement, except this has got some good data in here about the quality of the improvements. Adobe's obviously a huge player in how you present your context and your content out in market. So they are, when you talk about really implementing the change from search engine optimization to answer engine optimization, for many companies, they're going to be a key player. That's a huge issue. That's a now issue, right? We're already seeing search traffic go down. So I think it's quite important, and would definitely support that rating.
Yeah, it's important as a tool. It's important as a trend. However, Adam, could you answer Amanda's question? How do you think it technically works? The article doesn't go into it. So you put it on your website or in the back of your website. It starts creating, it essentially assembles the various looks from different AI engines, right? That's what that's what happens.
Yeah, I don't understand under the hood how it's functioning.
Yeah.
So we need to figure this out, but it's an important trend. Okay,
well, it's using the same look. There's a difference between engineering and science. This is engineering. You don't have to understand how something works. You just have to be able to measure it enough and understand how to get it to do what you want. And so that's what's happening here. I won't argue with important. It is a product announcement. It's by an important vendor. So it's an indication that the GEO SEO thing is real. I would say we really should recommend people go back and watch Rosemary's presentation on the Learning Lab, because she talks in detail about how they measure this. And Alden talked about how he measured the success of referrals he got through large language models as opposed to general Google traffic. So there's enough known here about how these things work to infer what they're doing and to make beneficial adjustments to your site as a result. I can't resist making the comment that I wish people would concentrate on making good products first. This is essential. You got to get your message out and all that. But I hate it when we start worshiping the algorithms before we create the products. Good products sell themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Okay, important it is. Let's proceed, Ankash, please.
The next one comes from Harvard Business Review and talks about how private equity firms are creating value with AI.
Yeah, it's an interesting article that PE firms need to work with their either potential acquisition targets to understand how they can use the AI, or the ones that they've already acquired, how they can grow them much faster than the rest of the industry. So it's a challenging task. Amanda, what did you think about this article?
So I'm optional on this because talking to leaders every day in some of the courses I'm facilitating, all we push into everybody's heads is don't implement AI just to implement AI. What is your business use case? What value will be created? I don't know that I need a whole article to summarize that thought process. But what I would say is about some of the statistics in here. It says only 20 to 25% of companies have production application of Gen AI in place, things like this. Additional 11% reported like a moderate return. So there's constantly also the question of what is the ROI on this? How are we measuring it? And again, I don't know that we need a whole article to tell us that. So with that being said, I was optional on this one.
Okay, John and Paul, you talk to PE firms a lot. What did you think?
Sure. Yeah, I know Tom pretty well. Davenport. I don't know Vikram. This thing for me was optional. Tom does these articles every once in a while, which are, basically a summarization of common sense. Like on the one hand, on the other hand, hey, before you pour the salt out, make sure you have the cap on, kind of article.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we have here. I think, look at the heads. Prepare to create value with AI. Okay. Implement AI in portfolio companies. Implementing. Okay. You need to have a combination of the portco and the holdco. Yep. Okay. You need a method for choosing.
Okay. Case made. All right. Optional. We're going optional. Adam, Tim, Paul. Okay. Optional it is.
I'll just read the obvious sentence in the last paragraph. AI investments won't yield sufficient value without careful analysis, planning, and implementation. You don't really need a whole article to say that to him at this point.
Well, one time a student did this thing in class where he said this woman did a phenomenal job opening up a business case at Harvard Business School and fantastic analysis and all that other stuff. And the guy put his hand up in his next comment. I called on him. He said, well, yeah, but we have to make sure that it aligns with corporate purpose and creates value as we do it. And I said, I get so pissed off. I said, yeah, well, Mr. Johnson, the opposite of what you just said is nonsensical. Therefore, your comment was content free. I said, so do you have any analysis to share with us? And so, if you take the opposite of something that's nonsensical, usually it doesn't have any content in it.
Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one is a research paper from ByteDance. So they have launched CDance 1, which is exploring the boundaries of video generation models.
Some fascinating innovations with quite significant performance gains from ByteDance. Adam, what did you think?
I think this is optional. I think it's a watch this space, right? ByteDance is the ones behind TikTok. And to see that they've come out with basically their first real foundation model in video generation. I was doing a little reading on it. The three things that are difficult to achieve at the same time, well, in this case, four. One is that it follows the user's instructions. So if you say the camera has to pan a certain way, or the people in the scene have to do a certain thing, you want to make sure the video actually reproduces what it's instructed to do. It also has to create believable motion and have high visual quality, in this case also at speed. So they've solved some really unique challenges to provide all of that in a new model at once. And it's already out there. I saw a site where you can get a few free credits a month and you can try it. So this is something that's already out in market. It's not just research, although it is a research paper. And out of TikTok, you have to imagine this is going to be very quickly, because they've reduced the cost significantly as well, showing up in their platforms. You have to see the writing on the wall here. It's a big step, but this is also still pretty early on, and in many ways just incremental improvements, although sizable ones in terms of the technology, but not new capability. So optional, yeah.
Yeah, optional. But for the people who are using video and quite significantly for their work or whatever, that's, I think, is quite important, because that's the next step.
Adherence is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's the next step of performance. Okay, going optional here. Anybody wants to dissent?
No, I agree. I think I will say one thing I wish sovereign entities, particularly, for instance, the United States administration, would pay attention to is how good Chinese research is. And we're in the midst of eviscerating our own research capabilities. And, it's not a good plan. And I think in general to the world, this is a good model here. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of companies working on this. They're funding a lot of research, and they're making a lot of progress.
Yeah, it's so silly. And the fact that they're focusing on visual and small models and, a lot of open source, this is Chinese soft power, baby. And they're doing it.
For sure. And they're using it, and they're using it well.
And
So
Tim, to your point,
accelerate.
it's short development cycles that are cumulative. So you go a year with all these little advancements here, and
yeah, and the results are showing. They were behind. Now they are at par in many places. Yeah,
I think we should, instead of investing in this, I think we should get rid of the inheritance tax. That makes sense. Okay.
Okay. All right. Optional it is. However, let's proceed, please.
Okay, the next one comes from AWS, and it's a case study talking about how Apollo Tyres is unlocking machine insights using agentic AI powered by manufacturing reasoner.
Yeah, a case from manufacturing where it appears that Apollo Tyres spent quite a bit of time of putting data in the right places, putting analytics on top of it, and then stepped into generative AI to get some more insights, and that's what they are reporting. So it's an interesting case from that perspective. Amanda, what did you think about that?
So we know whenever I get agentic AI articles, you can't predict what I'm going to say. So this one, I'm biased because a case study that I go over in one of the courses I facilitate is about production and tire manufacturing. And it's about defects in tires. And the facts are, I almost feel like this is now an overcomplication of this, that now we're taking a process that we could do that we don't necessarily need an agentic. Does it really have to be one big thing all wrapped into a workflow? Or is it still okay to create synthetic data, to take the human out of the loop, to find the defects in the tire? And this is the tire defect example, which it's very similar to this still. Do we really need to put everything into one big umbrella and say, look, we're doing agentic AI? I don't know. And so on this one, because again, I'm biased, I said it's optional, because I think now we're starting to get to the point where now we're overcomplicating things that maybe we don't need to go this far. So I was optional on this one.
Okay. Amanda, optional. Tim, what did you think?
Yeah, I was between optional and important. This is going to be an article that's hard for people not involved in manufacturing to appreciate. On the other hand, manufacturing is sort of a core meat of the on the bone use case, and the use case is good. They show some nice statistics for recovery, and I think the other thing that doesn't get enough attention is what a use case like this shows is preparation for scale. Because I think John talks about conversion of labor to capital. If you can take things that normally require experts and get them into these agentic models, you aren't limited by the ability to hire experts. You can now hire much less skilled people to do the same job. And so you can scale your business a lot easier. So that's the story of industrialization forever, is the ability to get workflows and processes that normally require experts into machines, basically, so that you can hire non-experts to run them. So it's an interesting use case from there. It's a reasonably okay use case. I'm not sure how many people will resonate with it outside of manufacturing. So I'm okay with optional. I might give it an important because it's a good use case.
Okay, John.
Yeah, let me make the case for essential. Come on, you data critics here. This thing has everything you want. I mean, it's like, you Tim, Luda. Come on. I mean, this guy. I mean, okay. Does it have facts? Yes, it has facts. Does it have economic impact? Yes. Does it have a description of how they implement it? Yes. Does it have actual roles and understanding of what the different agents do? Yes. Has it been implemented at scale? Yes. I mean, what do you guys want? This is essential. This is a fantastic use case all the way down to the metal, and tells you how to do it. And taking continuous data. Paul and I are working with a client, taking continuous data or job shop data or manufacturing data, integrating into, workflow, all the baloney that they kind of waved at in the McKinsey and the HBR article. These people are doing. So
they're certainly doing. So from this passionate,
okay, I'll be a complete flipper and flip my vote. John's convinced me it's essential.
Okay, Adam, your voice of reason.
Yeah, I'll split the difference at important. It is a great use case. The only thing that's missing here, John, is for it to be approachable to most readers.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who doesn't have any understanding of a manufacturing background, it was very hard for me to understand. It's not written in a way that really highlights or illustrates the value from the use case. It's sort of buried in the paragraphs. You have to read pretty deeply to extract that value. It's not well written for consumption by the Gen AI leader. I could not make this mandatory for them.
Yeah.
Isn't that what LLMs
There's
are
a lot
for?
of great data, but
isn't that what LLMs are for? You just feed it into an LLM and it'll explain it to you.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm reminded of,
I mean, not necessarily. Paul, what did you think?
Well, but before, I reminded of a quote a friend of ours, that Tim and mine, Ellen Kay, says, there's no powerful tool. It's not hard to learn.
True. Okay, Paul, what did you think?
Spirited debate. I'll side with Adam. Important.
Yeah. Hey guys, I think for in my book, this is important, but for slightly different reason. As I said, there was a manufacturing 4.0 drive before general AI hit, right? So a lot of manufacturers had this framework of putting their data in order, building this machine learning tools on top of it. And it was hard going, and some of them never saw the real results. Gen AI is a step up for them to be able to really get the analytics, the value out of what they slaved over for all these years. So I see this article as demonstrating how it can be done, and especially in manufacturing, where in this particular case, it's all automated. There's no humans involved, right? And the root cause analysis is very intricate. So they use Gen AI to get it to the next level with quite good results. So I feel this is an important case from that perspective. So by the power of the chalk, important. And Ankash, if you could proceed, please, to the last one.
Yes. So the last one that we have for today comes from Anthropic, and it's a case study about how Grab scales personalized merchant support across Southeast Asia with Claude.
Great. John, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I gave this one an optional. I think that I'm sorry, I gave this one an important. This is a major, support vendor grab that works across Southeast Asia. It's got some decent data in there about how it has changed the nature of statistics around support. It is a little. I was really on the fence because it is, kind of. It's written like a product announcement, if you will. But this notion of, how you get a combination of guidelines, marketing insights, helping small businesses really deliver. I think that one of the things that agentic AI is going to do is, and not just agentic AI, but generative AI in general is going to really empower small businesses. And the fact, we're starting to see it, through HubSpot and, through Shopify and things like that. And I think that this is an example of that with Grab in Asia. So I'm between optional and important on this one.
Okay. Adam, what did you think?
I was leaning towards optional. It does have some good numbers, but it provides zero insight into how they actually accomplish that, which left me lacking a little bit in terms of what I could take away from it. In terms of it's a great use case, but I don't know how I could apply that. So it just fell a little short for me.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah, I could give it an important, but I agree with Adam's critique. That again, we say it over and over again. Go read those AWS case studies, you idiots, because you've got all the right stuff, but none of the architecture and implementation details, which would be really helpful for people. So, but it's got all the other right stuff. And to John's point, John and I go back a long ways with Ronald Coase, and I think that's the big deal here. In general, for technology advances, what it really enables is smaller crowds to do larger things. And Coase was the guy who said, the size of a corporation is based on the cost of transactions. And when the cost of transactions gets low enough, you outsource them. You get them outside of the corporation, and the corporation ultimately becomes smaller. And this is shows you, as John was just saying. I'll just say John had it right. I believe very strongly this is a real indication of how this stuff helps small and medium businesses. So I could give it an important for that reason too.
Yeah. Okay, so going important here, Paul, Amanda, Descenders.
Tim is on fire today. Tim, I love that quote you had. AI enables smaller teams to do greater things. It's well stated.
Yeah. Works both ways, remember, but it does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good. Okay, going important. And Ankash, if you could prepare the scorecard for us. Any announcements?
We had a fabulous learning lab last night that will get posted the next day or two.
Yeah, it was great.
Tell us why, Tim. What did you get out of it? What'd you find?
Well, it just amazing. Again, smaller, one person creating an entire product and marketing capability, and basically creating, as he described, he created himself a little staff to go do his marketing for his product that he created using generative AI in the first place. So he's got a little, routing configuration product for technical infrastructure, and now he's going out and automatically reading Reddit subgroups to market it. It's just terrific. And the tool, so it's real hands-on use of the tools by a person who's got some tech background but is not a programmer.
Yeah. I really thought it was interesting how he said, he really did feel like he was giving instructions to worker, job description, everything else, and not coding. That's really
right. Yep.
So and Paul, it will be up in a couple of days, right? So
it'll be up tomorrow on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, watch
and go see Rosemary's video on the move from SEO to GEO. It's also terrific in that same YouTube channel.
Wonderful. Great. So today we had 3 importance and 3 optionals. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Paula and Valda and Vivek and Lucinda for commenting. Appreciate it. And we'll see you tomorrow.